Soft influencers, let's get booze.
Listen to A. Thompson for an hour. I'd rather fuck a blood relative.
It's A. Thompson.
Da-da-dum-dum. Ba-ba-ba. Ladies and gents, welcome to episode 175 of A. Thompsin and Other Disappointments. Your twice-weekly dose of Britain and indeed the world on a downward keel. Awfulness, the bottom of the bin, the grime, the grit. Basically, let me take you by the hand and host the chaos, the oblivion to which you have been so oblivious. This show, if you're just joining us, for the first time, maybe you found me on Twitter, maybe TikTok, maybe you're like, this guy seems all right. Bit of a satirist, bit of a piss taker. Maybe I'll see if his podcast is any good. Maybe I'll see if he can lighten my mood in this most darkest of times. Well, this show is a downer, guys. This show is the opposite of your pack of cetraline. If you're feeling a bit too happy, a bit too optimistic about the state of the world, come on in. Allow us to temper that imbalance that you appear to be suffering from. Every week it is, it's a solo show on Wednesday. Usually I'm ranting and roasting, nay, ruining whatever is going on out there, trying to make sense of the senseless, indeed light of the darkness. And then on Friday, I have a guest on. Friday nights, the live show, 7:30, live on YouTube. Sometimes it's someone from the world of journalism or, politics or satire, academia, or sometimes it's someone from my years in stand-up comedy, and we just shoot the shit about the state of comedy and the world and, our respective moves from stand-up on the stage into online, digital content. And that was the case last week. My guest was Alfie Noakes, who has run the We Are Funny project over in Dalston for 13 years. But anyway, today is it's my solo thing, where we try to, we look at what's happening in the news and try to get some laughs, try to get some doom lols out of it. Anyway, before we get started, before we really jump into this, quick paternal approving wink to the Patreons, to my cult members. I'm growing a cult, everyone, if you didn't know already. I put out all of the episodes of the podcast to Patreon backers first. They're 2 days ahead of everybody else. So if you like your shit topical and, reactive, instant, if you want first look at the live shows, like the ones that, or the one that me and Danny Price did in February at 21 Soho, or the one I'm putting together for July, perhaps. Which reminds me, free tickets for that show for you and a couple of mates. If you can, source me a venue. I am venue scouting, people. It just has to have a basement, room for about 50 people, and a mic, and a speaker. That's it. Like, all I'm trying to do is put on a live podcast and maybe put, a couple of stand-up comedians beforehand. That is it. It's just, a live show. A culty, fake Sunday sermon, kind of priesty performance by me, maybe, because it's a cult and all that. But I feel like that should be easier to organise than it has been for a Sunday, right? To find a venue that would just put something on a Sunday. But I swear to God, like, everywhere that I've spoken to so far, this has been the conversation, right? This is how it's gone. It's like, so you want to put a gig on? Yeah, I do. Like on a Sunday afternoon, and like maybe it would go into the early evening. Okay, well, it's $2,000 to hire the rope. $2 fucking grand. I'm hiring it for like 4 hours. I don't want to buy the fucking thing. Right? Yeah. Okay, but it's $2,000. Will you be supplying your own bar staff as well, or like I could literally hire a hotel suite for that? Like, it's a culty, fake Sunday sermon thing. I could literally hire a church for this. Well, it's 2,000, I'm afraid. Like, maybe just this once I could bring it down to 1,700, maybe. Okay, right, but does that include VAT? Ah, well, no. So, yeah, you need to add 20% on. So, yeah, I guess that's 2,000. Oh, well, fucking great. And it doesn't include bar staff. Oh, and your guests will not be permitted to use the main bar toilets. Like, what the fuck is this? Like, when did everything get so shit? Remember when you could just, like, nip in a pub and just, like, ask to put on a comedy night? Do you remember that? And, like, the guy behind the bar would be, like, cleaning a glass. He'd just be like, yeah, should be all right. Like, do Ryanair do dive bars now? Is that how they pivoted in the pandemic? Like, when did Ryanair start opening pubs? Because that is what this feels like. Like, you used to be able to go in and just, you know, say to them, like, yeah, would you mind if I put a gig on in your basement? And the guy would be like, well, you know, how many people are you bringing? And you go, probably about 50. Okay, and are they all drinkers? Like, are they gonna buy drink? Oh, yes, absolutely. They are hopeless alcoholics, irreparable booze hounds, all of them. I mean, like, they need help. Is what they need. But no, let's put on a show that normalizes it instead. But yes, in answer to your question, they will be buying lots of drink. Oh, well, perfect. Yeah, bring them in. Because then, like, I make a profit from a packed out basement that otherwise wouldn't be packed out because everyone's buying drinks. You sell some tickets at a reasonable price. The audience are happy because, well, you know, not happy because, you know, satisfied. My audience are never truly happy, are we? Binfluencers. We all know this. The clue's in the name, you know, disappointments and all that. But yeah, whatever happened to that dynamic? That ease with which you could put on a show at a reasonable price? Now it's like, yeah, can I put on a gig in your base? Okay, well, yeah, you can, but you're going to have to not pay any of your act aid. None of them can be compensated. Your comedians need to die hungry. That's what needs to. They need to struggle, because that's where good comedy comes from, Aid, is misery. Really, I'm doing you a favour. I'm really doing comedy a favour here, fostering the next generation of stand-up. Oh, and yes, you will have to charge £20 a ticket to make the shit even break even. Like, fuck off with this nonsense. Anyway, look, that is a very long, ranty way of me saying, if you know a bar in London that would put this on, you know, ideally on a Sunday afternoon, wrapping at like 7 or 8 in the evening so everyone could get home still at a sensible time. And, you know, maybe this place is not greedy with some fucking inflated rental charges bullshit. Like, this isn't WeWork, guys. I am this close to sending out high-vis vests. Like builder-style high-vis jackets to my Patreons. And we'll all just sneak into another room in a museum or a fucking boarded-up venue that couldn't survive the pandemic. You know? We'll do the show in a squat for free or some shit if I don't find a venue soon. But yeah, hit me up if you know somewhere. And I will, in return, I'll give you and a couple of mates free tickets for it. Anyway, look, let's get into this. What has been going on? What's the news? What's the unhappy haps, people? Texas just had another mall shooting. I don't know if you saw that. Another mass shooting in Texas. I think that's the 20th in the last, like, 5 years or some shit. But yeah, I don't know if you guys saw that. Like, if you're British, maybe you didn't see that in the news, you know, because we've had our own insanity dominating the news this last week. I don't know if you picked up on it. It was a, you know, big King-related thing and some, you know, police stuff with protesters happened. Like, it's been in a couple of papers. You might have seen. The Metropolitan Police are in hot water again today. You know, this time it's not for unlawfully arresting protesters, though that in itself is a scandal. But no, there's been some footage that has leaked last night of some Met officers going after some guy, and he's got 2 dogs, and they fucking shoot them. They shoot the dogs dead. And it's like, you know, I look at the news here, and I look at the news in the US, And then I look back over here and it's like, they've got another fucking mass shooting, another dose of NRA-sponsored, batshit, totally avoidable Americana. And then it's like, here in the UK, we're like, me too, right, guys? Like, we can be like America. Us too, Like, it's like we're trying to out-cretin them or something. It's a bit like, the shit British version-ish type of thing. When America does a thing and then we pathetically try to emulate it, with this sort of, pimp my ridification of gun ownership. I don't know if I'm making sense. Like, veterans, long-time listeners of the podcast will know that on occasion I like to wheel out Pimp My Ride as an example of when we in Britain shamelessly tried to copy something that got big in America, right? Because we did it with Pimp My Ride. It was a massive show in America. Then when we tried to do it in the UK, it was fucking laughable. Or like with MTV Cribs was another one, right? The American version of MTV Cribs was Mariah Carey in her fucking $1 billion penthouse. or it'd be like some $100 million pad everyone's favourite basketball player lives in because they get so much money through sponsorship and, just huge wealth on MTV Cribs in America. Just Bentleys and gold-plated swimming pools and tennis courts. And then Cribs UK was like, knock, knock on the door. It's a fucking bald one from East 17 in his bedsit in East Ham or some shit, like the shit British version kind of thing. And this is that. Again, clearly. Like, in America, it's like, we're gonna let people have semi-automatic weapons. We're gonna sell them at Walmart. We're gonna give them away with 10 Rice Krispies tokens. The mentally handicapped have a right to defend themselves too, Some idiot runs around shooting everyone, then the cops turn up with their guns. Just blood everywhere. Entirely avoidable. Just stupidity in all corners. And then the Met see that. And they're on some fucking bedsit in East Ham shit. They're like, gun lunacy? Gun lunacy's back, is it? Well, we should do that too. Oh, it's been a while. Like, honestly, this shotgun has had a quilt of dust on it since we murdered Mark Duggan and the London riots kicked off. The Brazilian guy at the tube station that we killed, I haven't touched it since. But you're telling me that we get to do something stupid again? Gun lunacy is back in fashion. Oh, just try and hold me back, guys. Like the Met and gun stupidity. That is like me hearing that grunge is coming back. It's like, oh man, time to shine. This is my wheelhouse. Just, what was it? It was like a procedure call out that the Met got called out to, and it was, some guy shouting a lot, and he was holding a couple of dogs, and then some fucking idiot with a badge just starts shooting. And like, if police are supposed to be there to protect and serve, right, is always the line that gets wheeled out, isn't it? Here's a question for you. Like, does anyone feel more protected and safe knowing that Officer K135 just shot 2 dogs? Do you feel safer now that those dogs are dead? Like, fuck me, fellas. I was shitting it about my kids getting snatched. Or, desperate people breaking into my home and robbing me at knife point. But now you've riddled those Labradors with SCO-19 issue bullets. Well, now I can unclench my buttocks. I can rest easy. Thank God you were here. Thank God those dogs didn't have "Not My King" placards, or you might have been outgunned. Those people are dangerous. If what I hear is to be believed. Couple of placards, you could have really been in trouble. Like, after the Sarah Everard kidnap and murder, right, and after the vigil where they slammed Patsy Stevenson to the ground, and and after sending spy cops into protest groups as undercover agents, and then they went on to father children with some of the activists who didn't know they were undercover cops because they'd used stolen identities from dead children's birth certificates. And then after the other guy, they were doing selfies next to the bodies of 2 black women. After all of that, aren't they supposed to be rebuilding trust? Aren't you motherfuckers supposed to be trying to convince the public you're not psychopaths? Like, what part of that strategy is pulling out your gun and shooting dogs? It's just... Because I hate to jump to conclusions. I really do, without due process and thorough investigation, obviously. But that sounds pretty psychopathy to me. Anyway, that's the Met. And the, and the Coronation was this week. And it took our periphery away from America's own premium tier industrial gun lunacy. And it really is industrial. It's just killing machine after killing machine rolling off a production line and, bullets in casings by the million and out they go. 2-for-1 deals. Treat yourself to a new gun this weekend at Walmart. And they all know, these companies that manufacture them and the NRA and they know a percentage of jealous husbands and irrational idiots out there are going to kill with them. They continue to do it. So industrial feels like the right word now, doesn't it? But anyway, yes, our attention was dragged away from our love of Americana for a couple of days because of the Coronation, which was rather big news over here. But here's a question for you guys, if I may. This is a big question for you. Post-Coronation. Here we go. See, riddle me this. Where do you think the Stone of Destiny is now? Where do you think that fucking stone is? Like, now we're in the post-festival cleanup phase. Now everyone's gone home, put their mass-produced, Chinese-manufactured Union Jack flags in the bin. That was fun. In the bin it goes. Now the Mall is just a sea of empty cans of shit British ale and fucking high percentage Pim-soaked orange segments adorning the curbs and paving stones of the Mall. Where do you think the Stone of Destiny is now? After all the hype and pomp has passed. Where have they shifted it to? I think it's in stuffed in a lockup in a hangar next to a bunch of Pat Sharp sticker albums. Some guy just wheeling it in there, it's fun, I guess, for a minute. Just lock it up, Probably no one's ever going to give a fuck about this thing again. So, yeah, just move it. The Stone of Destiny. In a storage container next to the Michael Jackson river float statues from the 90s. Do you remember that? He floated a massive statue of himself down the Thames to promote the History album, I think it was. In a storage locker, the Stone of Destiny. Some old Jacko statue. And do you know what else would be in there? Fucking Labour's tough on immigration pledge stone. I don't think anyone knows where that thing is anymore. All of them held in a locker with a sign on the front. And the sign would say something like, warning, Achtung. Achtung, warning. Herein lies embarrassment. Do not enter without anti-cringe PPE and a fucking gum shield to stop you cringing so hard you crack your premolars. Some guy just ventures in. Oh God, the Stone of Destiny. Is that what they call it? Oh Christ, The cringe warning sign on the front of it is just a silhouette of a guy holding his own face from a self-inflicted cringery injury or something. Fuck me, I'm in a lyrical mood today. You see, this is what you get, guys. This is the bourgeoisie, proper booge tier content that you were looking for. Anyway, yeah. I don't know where the Stone of Destiny is. But yeah, that was this weekend. The Coronation, the Met, the protesters. And this is why, maybe you won't have seen the latest installment of America's Gun Nightmare in the news here in Britain. But you know what? Hey, like, you might also not have seen it in the news because you're American. Because maybe maybe it's not even really news anymore over there. Maybe it should just be relegated to page 17 in American news, left off the bulletins, given how not news these things are these days. How not a big deal it is to American society. And how unshakably often these things happen, you know? Like, shootings are so fucked upwardly frequent in the US. Like, even in places you wouldn't expect them. That's the really messed up thing. Like, we were watching a walking video on YouTube last night, right? Because that's how super exciting life is when you have kids, right? It's just, there's no warehouse parties. There's no, ringing in a birthday at midnight and the big chill. It's just, shall we put YouTube on and watch someone else walk? Like, that is actually entertainment for us these days. Like, the fantasy of just being able to leave the house. Like, wow. But we quite like it, It's weirdly relaxing. There's lots of them, walking. Somebody walks silently around Miami for an hour, or somebody walks through London in the middle of the pandemic, or, there's something relaxing about it. Just virtually, by proxy, wandering around, a nice part of the world that you can't get to right now because you've got kids, maybe. And like, sometimes I wonder if it's like maybe a bit like cyclical. Like maybe it just keeps going levels deep. Like, like someone out there is living life, walking around, New York and filming it, right? That's what they're doing. Then the next level down, we're saddled with our children, okay? And the cost of our children. And so we just sit there watching that person live their life. But then you get to the next level down beneath us, somewhere out there is probably an infertile couple without kids who would watch us watching the walking video like, oh, that's what it's like to have children and to not be able to leave the house. It's weirdly relaxing to watch them as they watch someone else living an actual life. Like, it's like a food chain of shit lifestyles. And it keeps going down further and further, levels deep, until finally it's a crack addict watching a homeless guy watching a TV through a shop window that's showing Gogglebox. That's where it ends. Anyway, off on a tangent there, as always. So we're watching this walking video, and it's of Santa Barbara, which is a suburb in California, I guess. I don't know why my girlfriend picked Santa Barbara, but whatever. We sat watching this neighborhood, and there are cafes and bars, and the pavement is perfectly clean. Just this sort of nice tiled thing, and it's the US, right? So there's a Starbucks over here, and there's a McDonald's over there, but mostly it's just a lovely looking little town. And we did that thing that people do, when you see these, or you go on holiday, you go, I wonder how much a home is there, And so my girlfriend looks it up, and it's $1 million for a 2-bed apartment, obviously. You have to be a literal millionaire to live in a 2-bed flat in this perfect town. But then it hits me, right? Because I'm like, this is America at its best, in my mind, right? It's as good as it gets. It's clean. There's nice cafes. I could imagine grabbing a latte and going for a wander, and it's perfect weather. Everyone just looks so happy. And I'm like, I wonder if there's been a mass shooting here. And yes, there has. Even in the most perfect place in America, there was a fucking active shooter situation only a few years ago. Because it is just a basket case nut job country, isn't it? I mean, I know we are too. Like, I'm not letting the UK off the hook. Like, we need only reflect on the fact we have soaring food bank use, and we have shuttered domestic violence shelters, and we have people dying in hospital car parks because they can't get in to see the doctors that we don't have. but we spaffed 2 billion on a kingy party. And like, I know we're a basket case too, but that's kind of why I can look at the US and so confidently say, yeah, you guys are insane also, right? It's like a slur that we can both call each other because we're both a member of that community. Anyway, look, so it's, it's weird to have this perfect visage, this Brady Bunch, white America village of idyllic surroundings and shops and palm trees and perfect teeth and sun cream everywhere. Like, and then have that punctured by some angry cunt spraying bullets into strangers, Like the whole is so contrasted, and like, how do you wake up in a perfect place like that and go that angry? Like, I know it's annoying, bro. Like, God knows, I'm drawn to the dark sides of life and culture. Drugs, punk rock, booze, chicks with dyed hair and tattoos. Like, nothing is more boring to me than safe, pristine, sober and cellophane wrapped bullshit. But how does anyone get that angry, murderously angry, in a perfect climate with clean streets all around them, I don't think it's possible to be angry in Santa Barbara. Like, I don't think they even have the adjective, do they? Like, I'd be talking to a Santa Barbaran friend or something, I'd be like, yeah, and then the guy cut me up on the motorway, and then I ended up on the slip road to Slough, and I was so angry. They'd be like, I'm sorry, you were what? I said I was angry. I don't, you've lost me. I've literally never heard or experienced what you're talking, like it's, how can angry exist in Santa Barbara? I don't think anyone even gets, cut up on Californian, freeways. Anyway, perfect scenery all around you. There's nowhere that you should be angry about accidentally coming off the highway at California, from what I've seen. The concept of cutting someone up, I don't think that exists there either. If I was driving, like, in California and somebody started, invading my lane or, like, getting in front of me, I'd be like, here's how it would go. I'd be like, is this guy cutting me up? Oh my God. He's totally cutting me up. I like, mate, you're going to force me off the fucking actually, do you know what? This is another perfect Californian suburb that I'm happy to spend time in. Like, I would wave thanks to the drivers cutting me out. I'd be like, thank you. I've never taken this route before, but it looks nice too. So yeah, have a great day. Thank you. Anyway, yes, so Santa Barbara, it looked perfect. And even that has had some active shooter, mass shooting stuff happen. And that was 2014, I found out last night. I'll take the hoodie off. Getting het up now. 2014. And here's what happened, right? Some kid who was in therapy, by the way. So, great job. Whoever that therapist was, fuck me. Imagine being the therapist for the kid who goes on to murder a bunch of people. Like as a therapist, wouldn't you sort of, self-evaluate after that? Wouldn't you be like, actually, in retrospect, maybe I should have seen some signs there? Maybe as a therapist, I should conclude that there are sometimes pros to imposter syndrome. Like, sometimes some people should trust their gut that they weren't cut out for, I don't know, being a therapist. Like, wouldn't you self-evaluate? Wouldn't you be like, maybe when I was at med school, maybe my low self-esteem that was constantly telling me all the way through med school that I wasn't good enough and everyone else was deserving, but I was just an imposter. Maybe that was actually common sense, after all, telling me I'm not good enough to be a therapist, because now I am a therapist and my patients appear to be deteriorating somewhat. It's like, hey, I heard you qualified as a therapist. Yeah, no, I did. How are your patients doing? Not great. I wonder if, this kid's therapist is still a therapist. Do you think they are? Are they capable of that reflection, that self-evaluation? Shall we find out? Is that weird? Is that bad if we do that? Like, if it's bad, aren't you curious, to know? Because I know this is grim, but it is also kind of funny. It's like, I'm not mocking the dead people, obviously. If you die in a shooting, that is awful and tragic. And, I get that. But it's just darkly fucking funny that you have this country hooked on therapy, and it's the same country where people trip switch into running around killing people. Like, what hope is there for America if even the people who go to therapy can't fight that great American tradition of multiple homicide? I mean, the other side of this is that maybe therapy is kind of the problem, Maybe sometimes some men don't need to open up. Like, maybe this is just like an exaggerated version of it. Like, when you talk to your friend, you go like, so, how are you handling the breakup? And then like after the third hour, you're like, oh, no. Just keep some stuff to yourself, Like, is this sort of, like, Chad, okay, here's what we're going to do, okay? You seem real angry. You seem, I've read your Facebook posts. You sent me your fucking thoughts in a 12-page text and shit, and you seem angry. So what we're going to do is we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about your feelings, okay? Men and boys, they don't talk about their feelings enough, Chad. So here we go. Sit down. Just let it all out. And then 3 sessions later, the motherfucker's running around Smallville with an AR-15, like, pap. So, look, I'm just saying, a lot of podcasters and left-leaning types, they will tell you mental health this, and it's good to talk that. I'm saying sometimes just keep it bottled up. I'm just saying, like, sometimes it's okay to keep that shit bottled up. Like, you don't have to let it all out. Anyway, so this is what I found. So this is from Wikipedia. It's an article titled "The 2014 Isla Vista Killings." And, before I get started, before anyone starts, clapping back to me, I know Wikipedia isn't perfect. Sometimes they get some shit wrong. But it's pretty good, right? For a not 100% fact-based, observational comedy, satirical politics show. It's all right. It's reasonably reliable. I like it. I'm a supporter. I'm a lover of free information, or a Wikipedia file, I guess you could. Well, actually, let's just stick with lover of free information. It's probably less problematic. Anyway, look, it says the 2014 Isla Vista killings were a series of misogynistic terror attacks in Isla Vista, California. On the evening of Friday, May the 23rd, 22-year-old Elliot Roger killed 6 people and injured 14 others by gunshot, stabbing, and vehicle ramming. And this was near the campus of the University of California, Santa Barbara. And then he killed himself. Okay, so he stabbed 3 to death at his apartment, one by one, separately. Then he drove to a sorority house near the university campus, but he couldn't actually get in. So he shot 2 women dead just outside it. And then he goes on the run. And he's ramming into people, and he's shooting people from his car, and the police start trailing him, and they're shooting at him, and he gets shot in the hip. Right. And then he crashes his car into a stationary vehicle, and he shoots himself in the head. Game over. And so it's all sounding, very GTA, isn't it? It's all very San Andreas, right? When you get bored of doing a mission and you go on a killing spree in the blistering sun and you ram a few people off the road, you get out and you start spraying until eventually the cops surround you and the music heats up and bam, the whole thing fades to grey and black. Like, it feels a bit that, doesn't it? And fuck, oh yeah, so I should say, before he went on the killing spree, he uploaded a video to YouTube and he sent a manifesto to his friends and indeed to his therapist. His therapist gets this manifesto for why he's going on this fucking killing. Like, I bet his therapist was probably like, wow, this is fucked up. This sounds a bit psychopathy. Has he committed suicide yet? Because if you're feeling young and hopeless, there could still be a career for you in the Met, bruh. And his video was apparently all about, you know, how he wanted to even the score with women for rejecting him. And with guys who were able to have sex with women, which always feels a bit fucking ridiculous to me. It's so, like, completely illogical. Like, no one likes being rejected, obviously. But where is the logic in getting all weirdly angry about it? Like, she didn't want to fuck you before, but you, like, now you're getting angry at her? You think, oh, that's going to change, is it? Like, Sarah, do you want to go out with me? You seem sweet, but you're not really my type. That's the thing. Oh, well, fuck you. You fucking ugly, stuck-up, fat bitch, Sarah. You're nothing. You're fucking shit. Like, oh my God. Do you know what? I was a little bit on the fence there, thinking that you were too much of a nice guy, but now you're on some Ike Turner shit. Now you're giving me some O.J. Simpson vibes. Now I am just slipping off the bar stool here. Like, that has never happened once. Get rejected. Go angry. Oh, sure. Yeah, that'll get them banging your door down. Every woman I know just loves an insecure, threatening man. You know, like they're swiping through Hinge. And it's ping. Oh, they've matched with somebody. The guy's like, so what kind of dudes do you like? Well, you know, I don't really like to say. I mean, it's a little bit embarrassing. Oh, you know, come on, I'll go first. Right, here I go. I like blondes with big tits and tattoos. There we go. That was easy. Now, come on. What kind of guys do you like? Well, you know, I feel shy. That's it. Well, come on, baby. You know, that's why we're here. You know, we've matched. Let's get to know each other. You know, what kind of guys get you hot? Okay, well, I cannot come unless the guy slaps my mother at the family meal and threatens to send our sex tapes to my direct reports at work. I'm just kooky like that. That's my thing. Like, no one is into that. That is not a romantic or sexual strategy that has ever worked, even once. Even the masochists out there get off the bus at that stuff. Anyway, where were we? Who's the therapist? Let's see. Does it say? Okay, so the guy's name was Elliot Rodger, and he was 22 when he committed this atrocity. Oh, fuck me, he was English. That's fucking weird. An English mass shooter. He moved to the States when he was 5, went to an American high school, and he ends up going on a semi-automatic killing spree. I mean, look, you can accuse this kid of a lot of things. You can, obviously. But if nothing else, no one could accuse this kid of not integrating into the culture, right? He was English, then he went to an American high school and he ended up becoming a fucking, not a school shooter, but, you know, he's integrated, is all I'm saying. And what else? Okay, so he was relentlessly bullied, never diagnosed with mental illness, but fell somewhere on the spectrum, they said. Suspected autism. And his father was, or is, a semi-famous film guy, right? Which is kind of weird. Like, he worked on Hunger Games and the documentary called Oh My God. So that's weird. Like, his dad's this Hollywood guy. And his dad is a cousin of Reese Witherspoon. This is fucking wild. And so, okay, right, so let's back up. So I wasn't even going to go this deep on this because it's not the actual shooting that just happened. Like, that's in Texas, right? I was just looking at this because, you know, we were watching the walking video and it seemed so nice and perfect. And even that has mass shootings and shit. And even the Hollywood elite can't help but get involved, seemingly. And his therapist is what... Oh, right, okay, so is there any record of his therapist? Okay, right, so here we go. It says, before the shootings began, Elliot Rodger emailed his 100,000-word manifesto to his therapist, Charles Sophie, among others. It was titled My Twisted World by Elliot Rodgers. So the guy's name's Charles Sophie. Let's see who he is. Charles Joseph Sophie is an American psychiatrist. He is a former medical director of the County of LA's Department of Children and Family Services. He's also a member of the Dr. Phil Show's advisory board and is a frequent guest on the show and other TV shows and stations, including CNN, Today, Dr. Drew. He has many celebrity clients and he's worked with Paris Hilton, Michael Jackson, and Mel B. Fucking hell, like, what a raging, roaring success this celebrity psychiatrist is. Dr. Charles Soffy. Christ. Charles, I've got some problems I'm trying to work out, various behaviours and attitudes that I've developed that need addressing. I've always felt they hold me back and, they're affecting my family. I don't know, it's time that I took stock and, I talked to somebody about it. So I just want to, before we get started, could you take me through your credentials? Oh, sure. Yeah, so some of my clients you may be familiar with, Mel B, Paris Hilton, Michael Jackson. Wouldn't this be a weird way to advertise that you're good at therapy? Like, what a roll call. Well, I've helped Mel B, Paris Hilton, and Michael Jackson. Like, those three, really? Helped? No Lindsay Lohan? Did Gary Busey not have insurance? Is that why he's not in a, if you had to pick three celebrities for whom therapy did not appear to help them an awful lot. Like, Mel B is this, 3 times married nut job. Like, last time I read an interview with her, she was saying the previous interview that she had done with that same writer was a total pack of lies. It's fucking weird. And then there's, chaotic relationships and bankruptcy and, and then Paris Hilton is fucking, Paris Hilton and Michael Jackson's dead. Michael Jackson's therapy worked out so well. The guy was addicted to being unconscious. Basically. That's where he was at before he died of prescription medication overdose. Just addicted to not existing. Which, I suppose, if you were addicted to just not really existing anymore, just laying there, nothingness, maybe that is one addiction he's managed to fix. Like he's got there. Like he's finally made it to the gold pot at the end of the rainbow. He's there, guys. So I don't know, maybe that last one is a success of sorts. But fuck me, man. So this shooter kid, he was the son of a Hollywood film guy, and he gets bullied, and he goes to see a therapist. And, the shrink has this long line of celebrity nut jobs that he can reel off. Like, see, I can help you. Just like I helped Michael Jackson. You see, look at Michael up there on the television holding hands with a terminally ill teenager who would later go on to say that he molested them. Like, when he wasn't dangling babies off balconies and shit. Like, you could be that sane too, Elliot. Now sit here and talk. Don't keep it all bottled up. Talk about your feelings. Let it all out. Like, who is sitting in the consultancy room with this guy and going, really? Me? Like, I could be as sane and as lead a centered and stable life as Michael Jackson? Like, all right, look, here's a fucked up question for you guys, all right? I like these. If you're new to the podcast, you might not. Occasionally I interject with a little question for my listeners. Here's a question for you. Do you think with Michael Jackson, Paris Hilton, Mel B, all the celebrity clients, and portrait autographs adorning the office and the foyer, do you think Dr. Charles Soffy has Elliot Rodgers' face and autograph up in his office too? Like, how when you go in a restaurant and there's an autograph picture of like fucking Russell Crowe on the wall from fucking 12 years ago when he happened to go in there one time and he signed a napkin like, thanks Dave, love the pizza, cheers Russ. Like, do you reckon it's like that in Sophie's waiting room? Just like autograph for, thanks for your help, Dr. Sophie, you've been so kind. Respect always. love and light, Paris, kiss, kiss, like, and then next to it, be like, cheers for the meds, because he's English, right, this Elliot kid. Cheers for the meds, Dr. S. And yes, by all means, use my name and face to get the punters in. Thanks for everything. It all turned out perfect. Lukewarm regards, Elliot. You may as well put him up there. He's just as much a testimonial of this motherfucker's ability as the others, because they all turned out just as bad. You got one guy dead from propofol, the other one slumped in a car with a bullet in his head. This fucking dude pops up on Dr. Phil in a Ralph Wiggum costume like, I'm helping. No, you're fucking not. Anyway, where do we think this guy is now? Anyone got any guesses before I live Google on my podcast? Because, fuck me, this is compelling content, right? Definitely join the Patreon for those early bird July tickets, guys. Come see me Google live. It's apparently my new thing. But seriously, where do we think he's at now with this amazing track record? I reckon he's been treating Kanye. or Bam Margera. Just two kind of outlandish, half crazy people, before, and then they go and sit in his foyer. And he's like, I've helped Mel B and Michael Jackson. Sign here. Smash cut to 6 months later and Kanye's on InfoWars praising the Nazis. Like, you're cured, Kanye. Bam Margera's on... Actually, fuck me, Bam Margera has actually been on Dr. Phil. I wonder if that was a Dr. Sophie episode then. That would be perfect if it was, Dr. Sophie rocks up to Dr. Phil as a consultant, contributor, or whatever. Who have you got on this time? The jackass guy, Bam Margera. What's his problem? Well, he likes drinking. Okay, well, as your consultant, Phil, here's my list of recommendations. And then cut to 2023. The guy's on the run from the police and his brother is tweeting he's on meth now. People are like, wow, Bam's really taken a turn for the worse. I thought he was getting help. What kind of help has he been getting? Who's he been seeing? Who? Dr. Sophie? Oh, right, yeah. Starting to make sense now. I don't think he was on that edition, by the way, just for full transparency. I think that was just Dr. Phil. But it would be perfect if he was, right? If he was some sort of weird Dr. Death, Grim Reaper of psychology and addiction treatments. And anyway, let's have a Google. Let's see what he's up to. Okay, so the two most recent things. We have him as a guest on Dr. Phil's podcast, obviously. And then he's on WebMD and he's promoting his new book. And his new book is called Family Values. So that's nice. Good for him. Good for America. It's the land of opportunity. You can have, a succession of patients who all appear to not respond well, really. In fact, deteriorate. What is the common link there between these tabloid car crashes? Oh, and the kid that went on to murder 8 people in a perfect American suburb. What connects them? What connects these? You can be that and still crack on and get booked and get your book out. Don't let no one hold you back with your pursuit of happiness and the American dream, etc., etc. But this is what I don't get, man. It's the same as politics over here, isn't it? It's you get people like Julia Hartley-Brewer, people like Dan Hodges, who keep funneling out nonsense. It's demonstrably false. Dan Hodges has been fucking babbling on about Labour's quiet, private approach to Sue Gray for fucking ages now, insinuating or speculating that there might be something to it, something untoward. And then it turns out there's nothing to it. Or then there was the Keir's Beers Currygate thing before that turned out to be nothing. Or, posting shit the other day. He was like, well, can we all agree that Labour's poll lead is collapsing? Which is fine if it is, but it's not. It's demonstrably not. But again and again, they'll invite this guy back on. On to question time. On to this panel. That panel. There's never any pause for thought by the producers like, hang on, everything this guy says turns out to be nonsense. So why are we still booking him? Then they're like junior support producers like, because he's a good debater. Like, that's it. Like, fuck the cancel culture bullshit. These idiots get booked and rebooked and given airtime based almost entirely on the fact that they can speak reasonably fluidly. That's it. And they can babble some acronyms here and some percentages over there. It doesn't matter if they're not accurate or if it's just rooted in what they wish was true. Just as long as they sound confident and they're reasonably articulate in the moment, as long as it makes for a spicy debate, then back they come again and again. And it's not just Hodges. I'm really going on a fucking rant now about this, but like, I think I mentioned Julia Hartley-Brewer, right? A minute ago. Like, it's the same with her. Like on Question Time, there was a panel thing and they were talking about net zero or something, and she just dismissed climate change. She said, she was like, it's called the weather, like, which is just objectively, I mean, it contributes about the same political and scientific value to the debate as a microwaved badger. It really does. It's just useless non-versation. But who's on the panel next week? Oh, and joining us on the panel tonight, Reform UK, Dan Hodges, and journalist and broadcaster Julia Hartley-Brewer. Back she comes again. Like, wasn't her credibility in the toilet when she said that Enoch Powell wasn't a racist? Well, I think she apologised and withdrew those comments. I don't think she did. Well, okay. Well, I apologise now for the fact that she didn't. You what? Well, never mind. Let's just book her up because she'll cause a drama and it'll be great for clips the next day on Twitter. So back she comes again, And like, is it the same with this guy, this Dr. Sophie chap and his career? Because to me, it doesn't read that well. I mean, to his credit, he has managed to sidestep defending Enoch Powell, so he's had some successes, but still, it's like, shall we book him again? Well, what's he done since? Oh, well, he's been treating Aaron Carter and Juice WRLD. Well, aren't they both dead too? Now, like, oh, yeah, they're both in the ground from prescription medication overdose. Oh, well, definitely, yeah, get him on. He knows his stuff. Like, I mean, like, to be crystal clear, I don't think this guy was those guys' doctors. Like, I don't know anything about Aaron Carter or Juice WRLD, but like, I'm sure, Sophie, I'm positive he's not Dr. Death. I'm sure he's an okay doctor to many, many people. I'm sure he's legit helped some people. But my point is, like, he could be an okay-ish doctor, but have garnered a profile that should still render him unacceptable in terms of being a thought leader or a panelist. I think. Anyway, like he might have helped you swerve alcohol or address your negativity or repair family relations or something, but still, my last patients were a mass shooter and Michael Jackson. Like, that should not allow you to be on a panel to then credibly discuss mental health care or some shit. Like, the producers should be like, I mean, is there seriously nobody else? Is it Sophie or nothing, really? All right, fucking hell, Like, I don't want to be a massive cunt to the guy, because I don't know him. Maybe he's a lovely bloke. Maybe he loves his kids and his wife. He's very wholesome and he's helped, 50 or 70 people. But doesn't it annoy you that there's people like this that have a sort of track record that I think, and it's just my opinion, right? I think it should kind of remove them from panels and Dr. Phil and book deals. And yet they seem to just magically find themselves invited back on, And honestly, right, just to close out, because I've been on for a fucking hour now, but like, here's the thing, like, when you give these guys airtime, when you promote them and let them write these books based, like, not really paying attention to their actual performance and like the things that have resulted on their watch in the past, when you book them, when you allow themselves to promote themselves, like, what you're actually doing is taking that time from me. I should be booked on the spots, man, you fucking narrow-minded motherfucker. Like, I don't want to brag, guys. I don't want to brag, but I may have a more successful track record than Dr. Charles Soffy. I mean, literally, no one I've treated has gone on to partake in a killing spree. Not one! That is an A. Thompson price promise. Like, no, I've never treated anyone because I'm not a doctor. I cannot stress that enough, guys. I am not a qualified medical professional. But of all the people I have interacted with, and yes, of all the seminars of psychotherapy and psychoanalysis that I sat through in my late 20s, and of all the deep and meaningfuls I've had, and the COD psychology I've employed hosting this podcast, my hit rate is 100% for never having yielded a mass killer or celebrity paedophile. So look, guys, all I'm saying is this. My diary is free. I've done a bit of LBC and a little bit of Byline Times. My fees are negotiable. It's a tough time and I'm about to remortgage. So, some get imposter syndrome. And they worry that they shouldn't be booked for these things or that they shouldn't have qualified as a therapist. Well, not me. I'm right here, ready and waiting to come on CNN and Dr. Phil if it means I get to keep my house. Guys, that's all I've got time for. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget, I'm doing a live show on Friday night, this coming Friday at 7:30. I've got my guest, Star B. Really psyched. Looking forward to speaking to her about life, love, and the universe. Don't be a stranger, though, guys. If you want to get these episodes nice and early, like 2 days before everyone else on Spotify and Apple and so on, jump on patreon.com/Aid Thompsin with an IN on the end. The support, like the tiers for it, they start at like £3 a month, so it's fucking nothing. So if you're not too adversely impacted by the cost of living crisis, if you can spare enough for a coffee once a month to show me some love, let me know that you're listening and you want to see the podcast continue to grow and whatever. Do consider jumping on Patreon. It's patreon.com/Aid Thompsin. Take care of yourselves. I'll be back, as I say, Friday night. Until next time, I'm out this motherfucker.